The number one money mistake keeping you poor and wealth just out of reach. Have you ever heard of the phrase lifestyle creep? It's this idea that as you make more and more money, your lifestyle becomes more and more expensive. It's the reason why 49% of Americans making over six figures, over 100K per year, are still living paycheck to paycheck, which is insane, right? Because 100K is more than enough to live off of in just about anywhere in the world, especially as a single person. Obviously, if you have a family, that's gonna be a little bit tighter. But the point is, 100K is more than the average person makes and more than enough to get by, yet 49% of people making that much money are still paycheck to paycheck. It's a problem that plagues just about every single person at every income level, myself included. In this video, I'm going to break down what lifestyle creep is first, and we'll talk a little bit about keeping up with the Joneses, which is another phrase that kind of goes hand in hand. These two combined make up the number one money trap that is keeping Gen Z, millennials, honestly, everyone poor. And then I'm going to get into 2 tips that I have that will help you guys avoid lifestyle creep so that you can continue your financial freedom journey. And I'm gonna share a little personal anecdote with you guys later on in the video of a time recently where my lifestyle started to creep up a bit too fast. And so I'll share that with you guys towards the end. Now there's another phrase that goes hand in hand with lifestyle creep, and that's keeping up with the Joneses. You may have heard this phrase before, but it originated from a early 19th century comic strip called Keeping Up with the Joneses, where it follows a American family who is trying to always keep up with their neighbors, the Joneses. It's now a common phrase that refers to the comparison of oneself to your neighbor. It's the feeling when you see your neighbor buy a new car or a new home or go on an expensive trip and you feel the need yourself to go buy a new car, buy a new home, or go on an expensive trip in order to keep up and not feel like you are behind or less wealthy than your neighbor. And obviously, it doesn't have to just be your neighbor. That can be your coworker or a classmate or a friend, anyone in your social circle who you might look to and see they made this financial decision that feels out of reach to you and you feel the need to keep up with them. That's the idea here. Unfortunately, the reality is we don't know what our neighbor's financial situation is. They could be making these expenses, these purchases, instead of saving and investing for retirement. They could be racking up credit card debt. They could have a side hustle or some other source of income that is paying for these purchases that you're just not seeing. So just because you're seeing someone in your social circle make these big financial purchases or decisions doesn't mean that they are in the same financial situation you are. It also doesn't mean that they can actually afford them. Maybe they can, but maybe they can't. Keeping up with the Joneses ties directly into lifestyle creep in that as soon as you start making more money, right? Lifestyle creep is you make more money, you spend more money. So say you get a new job and you go from making 90K to 100K a year. You've got 10,000 extra dollars, but you've also upped your socioeconomic status just by making more money. You're gonna be around people who make more money now, right? Most likely your coworkers are gonna be making a similar amount of money. You're gonna be hanging out with friends who have a similar amount of disposable income. So you're around people who have more to spend, and as a result, you're around people with nicer cars, nicer watches, nicer phones, whatever the case may be. You then start feeling the need to keep up with them. And so your lifestyle is going to start creeping up in order to keep up in the social setting that you're in. Lifestyle creep is a bit more personal than keeping up with the Joneses. It's when you get a promotion, all of a sudden you're making more money, but you start spending more because you know that you have more. So you go buy slightly nicer clothes. Now when you go out to eat, maybe you get appetizers and drinks, and before you just got an entree. Now when you go to the coffee shop, you get coffee and a pastry instead of just coffee, and it doesn't feel like a lot in the moment. It's $5-10 here and there. And obviously if you're at a higher income level, maybe these are bigger expenses like a new car or a nicer apartment. But the point is, you start making more money and all of a sudden your expenses start creeping up and all that new money that you have is gone. It's all going to other things. So how do you avoid these traps? I have 2 rules that I'm going to share with you today to help you avoid lifestyle creep, to help you avoid keeping up with the Joneses and stay on your path to financial freedom. First and most important rule is that you have to pay yourself first. And just so we're clear, paying yourself first does not mean giving yourself spending money to go use on whatever you want. It means taking a percentage of your paycheck every time you receive it and putting that towards saving, towards investing, towards paying off debt and increasing your net worth. That is going to be the number 1 step here. And how we're going to do this is we're going to follow the 25% rule. And I'll maybe make another video in the future really breaking down the numbers for the 25% rule, but essentially what you need to know about this rule is that if you pay yourself 25% of your paycheck, you'll be able to retire without significantly having to decrease your lifestyle, which is a problem that a lot of people get to at the end of their life or in retirement, is that they didn't save up enough to continue living the lifestyle that they live currently. So this 25% is what we're going to stick with. So hypothetically, let's say your paycheck's $1,000. If you're applying that 25% rule, that means every paycheck, you're gonna take $250 and you're gonna go invest and save and pay off debt with that money before you do anything else, before you pay your rent, before you pay your bills, before you buy groceries. As soon as that paycheck hits, $250 gets put away for yourself. That's going to be step 1. Now, if you're just starting off on your wealth building journey, this 25% number is going to feel like a lot. So don't overwhelm yourself at the start. Start lower. Start at 10%, even 5%, whatever number feels manageable to you. Start with that, but work your way up slowly to 25% so that you're doing it in a sustainable way. You don't want to go from 0 to 25% and then feel like everything is so tight and you're having to make such a huge sacrifice. If you incrementally increase it over time, it's going to feel more manageable. You're going to get to 25% much quicker than you might imagine, and not burning out and not feeling overwhelmed is going to be so important for the long term of your financial wealth building journey. Now, when your income increases in the future, the amount you pay yourself first also increases. The percentage stays the same, but the dollar amount goes up. For example, let's say your paycheck was $1,000 and now it goes up to $2,000. First, you were paying yourself $250 a month. Now, sticking to that 25% rule, you're going to be paying yourself $500 a month. And as your income increases, feel free to increase this percentage. You don't have to stay at 25%. That's just the bare minimum. Bare minimum 25%, that's going to enable you to live your lifestyle through retirement and hopefully have a very comfortable standard of living your entire life. If you want to up it to 30, 40, 50%, that's just going to increase the speed at which your portfolio grows and the total amount that's going to be in there when you hit retirement. So that's going to be the first rule when it comes to avoiding lifestyle creep, avoiding keeping up with the Joneses. Pay yourself first. And notice in that example of going from $1,000 to $2,000, when you were making $1,000, you were paying yourself $250 and you had $750 left over to spend on living expenses, to spend on rent, to spend on bills, groceries, all that good stuff. When you jump to $2,000, the amount you pay yourself jumps to $500, but the amount you have to live off of is at $1,500 now. So it's not that you don't get to increase your lifestyle at all, right? In this example, your lifestyle expenses can increase by double what you were spending the month before, as long as you're doubling what you're paying yourself as well. But what this rule is going to help you avoid is a situation where you go from making $1,000 to $2,000 and that entire additional $1,000 that you're making ends up getting used as additional spending money. That's what we want to avoid here. We want to make sure that we're proportionally increasing what we pay ourselves every time we get an increase in income. The second rule has to do with any additional unexpected income you might receive throughout the year. It could be a tax return, it could be a gift, it could be money from a side hustle that you can't depend on every month. Any sort of money that's unexpected and undependable, that goes into this category in this rule. For this money, the rule is that you're going to pay yourself 50% of whatever that unexpected income is. And then the other 50% is fun money. Go on a trip, buy some clothes, do whatever you want with the additional 50%, but make sure you're paying yourself 50% of that unexpected income. And we've raised the percentage here because this income can't be dependent on. So just because you got this tax return this year doesn't mean you're gonna get it next year. So put a larger portion of that money away for the future, but then it also was unexpected income. This shouldn't be income that you're factoring into a budget, so use this money and have some fun with it. Do something that you might not otherwise do with your dependable income. And same goes for this rule, right? Like if you want to increase that percentage to 60, 70, 80, or even 100%, a lot of the times if I get unexpected money, 100% of it I just put into investing. But just make sure that you're putting that 50% away. That's the minimum. Anything above that is bonus money, but don't feel bad about going and spending that other 50%. Have fun, enjoy your wealth building process as you go along. Also important to note, if you are making money from a side hustle or any additional income that's unexpected, make sure that you're setting aside money for taxes and then splitting the remaining amount 50-50. So these two rules are going to help you avoid lifestyle creep. They're going to keep you from living paycheck to paycheck as you increase your income. I'll give you a little bit of a personal example because recently I caught myself experiencing some lifestyle creep. At the start of this year, I was working a new job, and about 2-3 weeks into working my new job, my prior company reached out to me and asked me to do some contract work. They wanted me to finish up 6 or 7 projects that I had started working on before I left, and so I sent them over a bunch of contracts and quotes for all the work that they wanted done, and they agreed to my pricing and signed the contracts, which totaled out to about $50,000. This was going to be the largest amount of money, unexpected money, that I had ever made. And so I got excited, and I mean, it's hard not to, but looking back, I really wish that I had a little bit more patience. I got excited, the contracts were signed, I was like, awesome, at the end of this month, I'm gonna get $50,000. So I would use the rule that we just talked about, that 50-50 rule. I would have had to put some money towards taxes. So I was gonna take $15,000 for taxes and set that aside. And then I was gonna have $35,000 left, of which 50% would be paid towards myself and invested. And the other 50% I would be able to use for, I was gonna go on a trip, buy some clothes, a watch, some things that I wanted. And I was actually only going to use $10,000, so it wasn't going to be 50-50 exactly. But like I said, I got excited and I spent $1,500 on something that I really had been wanting for a while. And my thought process was, well, I'm going to get $50,000 at the end of the month. I knew it was wrong, but like, I'll just pay myself back. And so this is maybe even just a third little anecdotal rule, but don't spend your money if you don't have it yet. Just because someone signed a contract doesn't mean they have to honor it. They pulled out of these contracts 2 days into me starting this work. It didn't end up making sense for me to fight it. It was going to be too much time and energy and money for me to try to get paid for those 2 days of work. So I ended up not only not getting those contracts, but I spent $1,500 that was not in my budget. And so I had to cut back the next couple months and spend less to make up for that, which wasn't fun, not the end of the world by any means, but it's something that I'm going to carry with me going forward until that money hits your account and you're sure that it is yours. Do not spend it. So it's not exactly in the same realm, but it's that same mindset of, oh, I've got more money now, I can go spend more money. So that's my recent experience. I'm curious, in the comments below, let me know if you've recently experienced some lifestyle creep or some keeping up with the Joneses. And go ahead and share that in the comments below. I'm sure all of us can relate to this on some level. So it'd be great to hear what your experience is as well. I really want to stress that avoiding these money traps and living by these 2 rules that I've laid out doesn't mean that you can't ever go buy something newer, bigger, better. It doesn't mean that you can't increase your lifestyle. It just means that you have to live within your means. And when your pay increases, what you pay yourself also increases. The 25% rule is a great rule to live by because it will allow you to retire without having to significantly decrease your lifestyle. And as long as you're putting away that 25%, you can do what you want with the rest of that money. If that means that you can increase your lifestyle, by all means, increase your lifestyle. Link below in the description, you can find a completely free monthly expense tracker. It's what I use each month to track my expenses, and it'll help you catch lifestyle creep as it happens. So it's a great tool to use. I recommend going in at the end of each month and tracking all your expenses. I've laid it out really simply and nicely for you guys, so go check that out. And with that said, you made it to the end of the video. Thank you for tuning in. Please, if you found this video helpful, go ahead and give it a like. It helps the channel out immensely. And subscribe for more personal finance videos. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.